ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। In the lesson Human Composition, we are studying the topic the five koshas, the Panchakoshas. Of the five koshas, we have finished three: the Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, and the Manomaya Kosha. The three koshas are covered. And we start with the intellectual sheath, the Vijnanamaya Kosha. As I said previously, these five koshas goes in the order of subtlety. The Annamaya Kosha is the grossest and Anandamaya Kosha is the subtlest. The very subject matter of Vedanta being subtle, it always goes from it goes from the grosser and takes us to the subtle. Again I repeat, the very subject matter of Vedanta is subtle. The subject matter of Vedanta is not in relation to the gross. It talks about the gross and it takes us into the subtler realms of life. The five koshas is a very beautiful analysis of the human composition, an extraordinary analysis of the human composition in the order of subtlety. Of the five koshas, Annamaya Kosha is called Annamaya, means food sheath. That which is caused by food, maintained by food, and goes back as food to something else is Annamaya Kosha. It is the grossest. Then comes the Pranamaya Kosha, the pranas, the panchapranas, and the prana being the link between the gross body and the subtle body. Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha means the mental faculty, the mind, the mental sheath. And we saw what the mind is last week. We start with the intellectual. We start with the intellectual sheath, Vijnanamaya Kosha. First, I read the entire Vijnanamaya Kosha, and then we take the explanation. Topic. I'm reading from the text. The topic, intellectual sheath. This sheath comprises the intellect, the faculty to think, reason, contemplate. The intellect judges and decides the mental and physical activity, controls the mental, vital air and food sheaths. The senses in the physical body tend to indulge in the sense objects of the world. The mind is attracted to instant pleasures. The intellect controls, regulates the mind, pranas and senses. One needs a powerful intellect to practice this discipline. And intellectual strength is gained through study and reflection upon the truths of life laid down in Vedanta. A powerful intellect must be distinguished from intelligence. The two are distinct and different. Intelligence is gained through knowledge drawn from external sources. You may be well informed in one or more subjects through educational institutions, textbooks, and teachers. You are then knowledgeable in that particular field, no more. That does not strengthen your intellect. Thus, you may be well versed in one or more subjects, yet fall a prey to mental and sensual attractions. You could find a brilliant scientist being infatuated to a woman or addicted to alcohol. When the intellect is weak, the demands of the mind and senses usurp the personality. The mind overpowers the intellect. The person then is inflicted with stress and sorrow. The mind's nature is also to slip into the past or future. That ruins one's concentration. For concentration, your mind must back your action. When your intellect keeps the mind focused on the present action without allowing it to slip into the past or future, then you are concentrating. You need a strong intellect to do that. Hence, people with mere intelligence and no more intellectual strength find it difficult to concentrate and become less productive in their field of activity. Now, this is the intellectual sheath, Vijnanamaya Kosha. This sheath comprises the intellect. Now, what is the definition of the intellect? Intellect is the faculty to think, to reason, to contemplate. Intellect is the faculty to think, to reason, to contemplate. Now, what need not be told and what is implied here is it is an independent faculty. It is an independent faculty which thinks, contemplates, reason independent of the mind. It is an independent, first thing that is very difficult, one of the fundamental things that you need to understand, it is an independent faculty which can think, reason, contemplate irrespective of the mind. Now, controls the mental, the vital air and food sheaths. We say subtlety, intellect is the subtlest. It is subtlest because it controls the mind, the prana and the food sheaths. It is also pervasive because mind can go into the known areas. Intellect penetrates into the unknown. Mind go into the areas that is known. It will not go into the unknown areas. It cannot go into the unknown areas. It is the intellect that can penetrate into the unknown. Therefore, intellect is subtler than the mind. If we say intellect is subtler than the mind, down the line it is subtler than the mind, the mental, the Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha. That is understood. Also, it is the faculty that controls the mind, the vital air and food sheath. Thus, it is proved that intellect is the subtlest because subtlety is measured by control and pervasiveness. Subtlety is measured by control and subtlety is measured by pervasiveness. Now, how the intellect is pervasive? Mind can go into the areas that is known. Intellect explores and go into the unknown. That exploring faculty that can go into the unknown is the intellect, not the mind. That's why people use, not knowing this vocabulary, not knowing this distinction, they use vocabulary so commonly as though it is part of the mind only, which they call it as, which they would call it as, you need to visualize, you need to have dreams, you need to have all that functions belongs to the equipment called intellect. It is not of the mind. It is not of the mind, it is of the intellect, because all this is exploring the unknown. The moment the moment it becomes known, it is part of the mind. After it is known, it becomes the mind. So intellect is that which penetrates into the unknown. When we say penetrates into the unknown, in a more simpler term, you can understand it as intellect is that which explores, which explores. Not only it explores, it also has it is also the factor that has to control the mind and the action, mind and the senses and the action. Ideally, it is designed to control. Because of it not being developed at all, the other faculties are the other faculties are powerful. When I say the other faculties are powerful, means the other faculties as in the senses and the mind. The senses and the mind appear to be powerful, or it is powerful now because this instrument, this faculty called intellect is not attended to or developed. As we have seen any number of times, if at all we come to the level of intellect, if at all people come anywhere closer to intellect, they come up to the level of intelligence and misunderstand that misunderstand that intelligence to be a function of the intellect. Intelligence is gaining knowledge. Intelligence is gaining information, knowledge. That knowledge is used, that knowledge is necessary to conduct yourself in the world to earn a livelihood. That knowledge is needed to conduct yourself in the world and to have a livelihood. Preparing yourself for your livelihood is different from actually living it. Intelligence prepares you to earn a living. Earning your living is distinct and different from actual living. For the actual living involves the mind and the senses and your ability to relate to those around you, which is not the function of intelligence, which is not the function of intelligence, and you can't expect an intelligent person to know how to do all this. That is why very colloquially in the world they say, Appa, you would have padichitu, why are you doing this? Having been well educated, how can you do this? Why will the person not do that? Because he has only learnt intelligence. How can you expect an intelligent person to have an intellect? How can you expect an intelligent person to have an intellect? Intelligence is a livelihood. Now, that intelligence does not teach you a few things. What is the intelligence doesn't teach you? The intelligence doesn't teach you about how to deal with your mind, how to deal with your senses, and how to relate to those around you. Intelligence doesn't teach you. You have a PhD in mathematics. Because you have a PhD in mathematics, you will have a wonderful self-controlled life, and you will have a wonderful relationship with people around you. What is the connection? How this is connected to that? At least in this classroom, we should be able to understand the difference. A person has a PhD in let us say physics, let us say quantum physics. Will you expect that person to be ethical, moral, self-control, sense control? Does that automatically give all this? Are you able to follow what I'm asking? Would it give that automatically? If it can give that automatically, Vedanta is not required at all. Vedanta as a subject is redundant. Vedanta as a subject is such a waste of time sitting and doing that. But the truth of life is, whether you agree or disagree, accept or don't accept, the truth of life is intelligence will not teach you all this. Intelligence will not prepare you for all this. Now, what you need for life is intelligence plus this. The whole world says intelligence alone is enough, and as long as you are intelligent, you will know how to deal with things around you. It doesn't work that way. That's the example he is giving. A brilliant scientist can be an addict. A brilliant scientist, a doctor who's saving lives, can be a very selfish and self-centered person. No. A university professor, a school teacher can be highly indulgent, can be of the worst character. All this is possible means what? Intelligence and the ability to live life are distinct and different. I tell you, honestly speaking, you can hear this 40, 50 years, you can hear this 40, 50 janmas also, you can hear this, and you will still go back thinking, you will still go back thinking that intelligence is far more superior than intellect. Simple proof. What is the simple proof for this? The subtlest equipment to develop once a week, 1 hour session. No? Even if you ask me, I am not going to do that. Is a different story altogether. But then that thirst itself doesn't come, is what I am saying. That thirst itself doesn't come. Why? Because it is still not understood as the vital. It is still not understood as important. Now, if it is understood as important, there would be if it is understood as important, the very amount of time that you would spend on strengthening it would be there. The very fact that a person is not doing this itself is an indication that fundamentally this difference is not understood. What is the difference? The difference between what he calls as the distinction between intelligence and intellect. Your productivity, your dynamism, your objectivity is not dependent on your intelligence. Is dependent on how strong your intellect is controlling and directing your emotions and senses. Again, I repeat, your dynamism, your productivity, your peace of mind, your relationship with those around you, all this is not determined by the levels of your intelligence. It is entirely determined, completely determined by the strength of the intellect. And that intellect has to control the mind and the senses. Carefully follow. In life, either you control yourself, which is freedom, or others around you will torment you and they will control you. These are the two things. Either you develop your intellect and strengthen yourself and practice this self-control and evolve, or the other alternative is you will be a victim of the mind, you will be the victim of the senses, and you will be the victim of the environment. When I say victim means, it is not that they are threatening you or cheating you or anything. It means you yourself, because of your weakness, will go through this suffering. You yourself will go through this weakness because of your suffering. Therefore, he says, understand the difference between the powerful intellect must be distinguished from intelligence. The two are distinct and different. Intellect, again I am repeating, intellect is the ability to question, to think, to reason, to contemplate, is the function of the intellect. When it questions, when it thinks, when it reasons, it can be victimized by the mind or it can be independent of the mind. When it is victimized by the mind, it would think on how to fulfill the desire. When it is independent of the mind, it will question the very desire itself as the intellect. When it is not powerful, when it is not developed at all, it becomes a victim of the mind. When I say victim, when in Vedanta, when we say victim of the mind, what does it mean? Victim of the mind means the inability to question the likes and dislikes. All the thinking will be revolving around how to fulfill the likes and dislikes. Here and there, little bit of morals and ethics and all is all right, sir. But fundamentally, fundamentally it is fulfillment of likes and dislikes only. Dharma, ethics, righteousness, morals, all that becomes like a flavor whenever it is suiting. Whenever it is suitable, it becomes like a flavor to you can add it up. That quality of life, what would be that quality of life? If that is the way in which the person lives, what would be the quality of life? Now, we need not discuss that. Nobody needs an explanation for that. Why nobody needs an explanation for that is because everybody's life is an example of that. Everyone's life, everyone's own life is an example of that. All that is needed is some faithful introspection. That's all. Some faithful introspection, if everybody does, you will understand that because of the intelligence and all that, nothing has, as a being, as an individual, nothing has changed. Therefore, in the discussion of the intellectual sheath, he says, distinguish and understand clearly between the intelligence and the intellect. See, I'm not going into the detailed study of this because any number of times we have discussed this. Every few weeks we keep discussing this, and I have said in the last few weeks itself we have discussed it enough. That's why I'm not going into the repetition again. The formula is this. Intelligence will not lead you to peaceful dharmic existence. It is intellect. Again I repeat, intelligence will not lead to a peaceful dharmic life. And why this dharmic life? Unless this dharmic life is there, no possibility of thinking about the highest. This dharma is not for giving discourses to another. Dharma is always for oneself to practice. Now, a powerful intellect alone would be able to do that. Now, what is this dharma that the intellect practices? Okay. What is the adharma? Example of adharma, Ravana. You can put example of adharma is, you can keep example of adharma as Ravana. Why do we say Ravana is the example of adharma? If you weigh on a scale between Rama and Ravana, Ravana scores much high than Ravana scores very high on the plane of equation. Ravana scores very high. What is the combined wealth of Ravana versus? Yeah. What is the combined wealth? What is the wealth of who is the richest person? Now I don't know. Change. Now, what is the wealth of the richest person? Now, that wealth, that richest person that you can conceive of himself is is nothing when compared to Ravana. The combined wealth of Ayodhya versus the combined wealth of Ravana. I don't know whether you know it or not. Absolutely no comparison. Absolutely no comparison. How do you know that? Tirupati Balaji, for his marriage, he had to take loan from Kubera. Tirupati Balaji, for his marriage, he has to take loans from Kubera, and Kubera borrows from Ravana. When Kubera himself is the god of wealth, at least this you will know, no? Kubera himself is the god of wealth, and that person goes and borrows from Ravana, and Ravana says, keep the change, don't bother about. Ravana says, keep the change, don't bother about repaying also. Combined wealth, the material wealth of Ravana, the beauty of Ravana, the physical beauty of Ravana, the physical beauty of Ravana. Two men praise the physical beauty of Ravana. Two men. Don't think that they belong to the rainbow group. Huh? Two men describe the beauty of Ravana. One is Hanuman. Second is Rama himself. When Rama meets Ravana for the first time in the battlefield, he looks at Vibhishana and says, "You are very lucky, Vibhishana, to have lived with a brother like this. I didn't have a brother like this." Vibhishana says, "This man is very delusive. So you look at him for 5 more minutes, he will confuse you also. Start the fight." The beauty, the physical beauty of Ravana. In strength and valor, there is no difference between Rama and Ravana. In strength and valor also, equal. That is why they fought for. The battle that happened between them was the entire creation wanted to see that. Why? Because both of them are equal in that also. So in wealth, Ravana overpowered Rama. In beauty, in strength and valor, if Rama can say, "I have a Dharmapatni Sita as wife," if Rama can say, "I have Dharmapatni Sita as wife," Ravana can say equally. For of the virtuous women, Sita is one, Mandodari is another. So even then they are equal. If Ravana can say, I have brothers who is ready to give up life for me, Ravana also can say the same thing, because Kumbhakarna gave his life. Here, have you ever seen Ravana playing any music instrument? Have you ever heard of Rama playing any musical instrument? Rama is always very serious, no? Ravana is a very great musician. He's a wonderful artist. He's a great musician. Great musician to the extent where his symbol is the flag, is Veena. Rakshasa having a symbol as Veena. Rakshasa must have a flag of skull and bones. But here you see Ravana having Veena, an artist. You have never seen Rama as an artist playing a musical instrument. Some of the wonderful ragas in the Carnatic music is attributed to Ravana. If Rama has studied all the Vedas and all that, Ravana also has studied all that. So in education also both are equal. Here Ravana is more luckier than Rama in this aspect. What is the luckier aspect? Ravana had a son who's ready to give up his life for father's lust. Have you ever heard a son ready to give up his life for father's lust? Indrajit did that. Ravana's son gave up his life for what? For father's lust. And still, what do you see? And still, what do you see? This man is extraordinary. Rama. What is the difference? The wealth, the power. See, when I say the power, all the planets used to be the steps. Supposing if Ravana is feeling a bit hot, he will tell the sun, cool down. Sun will immediately cool down. You know that? That is the power he had. The planets will listen to him. Supposing if it is too windy, he doesn't like that. It is too windy. He will call Vayu and say, he has the regulator. Nama fan la AC la regulator vechirukra madri. He had the power to control the. See, namakku vandu or instrument ku dhaan regulator irukku. Ravana had the power to regulate the bhutas, the elements, everything. And yet, Ravana is the symbol of adharma. Why? Because he was a victim of the senses, the mind. Rama is extraordinary because he is not the victim of the senses and the mind. That's all the differences. The senses tend to indulge in the sense objects. The senses tend to indulge. The mind is whatever the mind is. It is the intellect that controls the mind and controls the senses. And nowadays you should not even use the word control, because control is a very negative word. Yeah. All the positive qualities we have converted into negativity, sir. That's the modern world. Greatest contribution is what? All the positive words are turned into negative words. You should not use the word control, sir, because control is very. Now, whatever word you want to use, you use. Doesn't matter. But the senses and the mind has to be controlled. You can use the word monitoring. You can use the word checking. You can use the word directing. You can use the word policing. It doesn't really matter what word you use. Your senses and your mind destroys you, irrespective of what you have acquired in terms of intelligence, power, wealth, and all that. If you don't have a powerful intellect, irrespective of what you have acquired in terms of wealth, in terms of power, in terms of anything, the ultimate result would be like Ravana. What is the ultimate result of Ravana? All that he nourished, valued, all that he nurtured, nourished, valued, all that was important, left him, and he died. And he died lonely. In fact, the last day of his death, the last day when he came into the battlefield, he was dead 90%. He was dead already. This would be the condition. This is the condition of every human being who doesn't have an intellect. So what the Shastras did, it talked about it in the form of a story. It talked about it in the form of a story. It talked about it in the form of dharma, smritis. It talked about it in the form of the shruti, as in the logic and reason that we are discussing now. In whatever way appeals to you, you take it. But what is important is you need to have this conviction. What is the conviction? What is the conviction? The conviction is as long as there is no understanding of this intellect, my life and those lives around me will be a disaster. You may agree, you may not agree. You may accept, you may not accept. But the law doesn't change. For it is not a matter of opinion, it is a matter of experience. It's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of experience. This equipment intellect, which is the subtlest, the very subject matter of Vedanta is strengthening this tool called intellect so that you can penetrate into the unknown. Every subject has a purpose. What is the purpose of chemistry? There is a purpose. There is a purpose of medical sciences. There is a purpose of engineering. There is a purpose of everything. Now, what is the purpose of the knowledge of Vedanta? The purpose of the knowledge of Vedanta is this intellect. Why this intellect as a tool? Now, the purpose of it talks about intellect as a tool to get to the ultimate. Why intellect becomes the tool to get to the ultimate is because in order to go to the ultimate, you should be able to penetrate. If you don't have this penetrating capacity, you will not be able to go into the unknown. And all that Vedanta talks about, all that related to life is the unknown. Science deals with that which is known. Science deals with that which is knowable. That is why science defines everything as verifiable and measurable. Everything has to be verifiable, everything has to be measurable. Then only it is. Now, all that in relation to the world can be measured, can be verified. Now, the very subject matter of sciences is the world, the matter that can be verified and measured. The very subject matter of Vedanta is subtle. Every now and then I keep saying this. Two beautiful words that we have lost. Some of the wonderful words we have lost completely. One of the wonderful Sanskrit word that we have lost is Shraddha. Another wonderful word that we have lost is Adrishta. Drishta Adrishta. Adrishta means subtle. Adrishta means that which can't be seen, that which can't be perceivable, that which can't be perceived, that which can't be seen. Now, Vedanta deals with what is the subject matter of Vedanta? The subject matter of Vedanta is dealing with the subtle. The subject matter of Vedanta is to deal with that which is unseen, which is unknowable. If that being the subject matter, you need that much of penetrating capacity. You need that much of logic and reason. That is why the logic, the reason, the analysis of Vedanta is so sharp, so incisive, so precise. At some point of time, we will get fed up and we will say, these are all quibbling with words, playing with words. Why they do such incisive logic and reason is because the very subject matter is that. It is not perceivable, it is not measurable, it is not verifiable, and it can be only experienced. Again, I repeat, it is not measurable, it is not verifiable, but it can be only experienced. That which can be experienced alone, Vedanta deals with. I'm not even, you need not even go to the level of Brahman and all that. Even relatively, even in the world, you take the value systems. Okay, take the simplest example, love. What is the verifiable factor for love? What is the measuring factor for love? How would you verify it? How would you measure it? Is there a standard to that? Every day you say good morning, every day you say good night. Is that love? Is that taking care? Is that affection? You know it, you have experienced it, and yet it is not measurable or verifiable. Are you able to follow? Music, art, even an art, a painting. Some of you go to the art gallery, some of the paintings runs into a small state budget, no? One single painting, small state's budget it is. It means what? It means what? A person who doesn't understand the subtlety in it, what would that person say? Or what would that person think? How would that person think? What is the material cost? What is the labor cost? What is the profit? What is the material cost? What is the labor cost? What is all this put together? All this put together, this painting is not even worth material cost. The cost ellam potale it is 20,000 rupees, sir. 20 lakhs, 2 crores allam. People who have money and don't know what to do with it will do all this. We conclude that straight away. Why? Because we do not understand the subtlety involved in it. Now, all the subtleties that we know in life, that we can experience in life, the subject matter of all that is Vedanta. The subject matter is, subtlety is the subject matter of Vedanta. Carefully follow now. Life itself being so subtle, you need to know it. Life itself being so subtle. But then what happens if, sorry, I didn't conclude. If subtlety is what it is, to understand the subtlety, you need that much of penetrating capacity. What does that penetrating capacity means? When you look at the seed, you understand the tree. That is penetrating capacity. சும்மா கோட் மாதிரி எழுதி வச்சுக்கோங்க. It will be easy to சும்மா இதை வச்சு you can give a 1 hour discourse. அப்படிதானே நான்லாம் கொடுத்துன்னு இருக்கிறேன். So you can also do the same thing. First thing, look at the seed, you understand the tree. That is penetrating capacity. Look at the today, you can understand your tomorrow. That is penetrating capacity. You look at your today, you can understand your tomorrow. That's penetrating capacity. Look at your present, you can understand your future. That's penetrating capacity. The capacity to see the invisible in the visible is intellect. Again, I repeat, the capacity to see the invisible in the visible is intellect. The capacity to see the end in the beginning is intellect. The capacity to see the end in the beginning, that is intellect. So when indulgences happen, when the senses crave for indulgence, when the senses drives you for indulgence, it is able to see the end in the beginning. Because of its penetrating capacity, that is able to see the end in the beginning, it says, stop it, don't get into it. Mind says, mind cannot see the end in the beginning. It only sees the immediate pleasure it gets. The mind, the senses understands only the immediate pleasure it gets. Therefore, it would do anything for that immediate pleasure, for that instant pleasure. Now, what is righteousness or dharma? Indulgence is adharma. Remember all this, I started with the discussion of intelligence and intellect. I concluded, and then I started with the question of the dharma. Angada Raman story solli I brought the attention back to the class. Aprama I am saying what I wanted to say. Ravana story la sonnakku konja nera paada edho nalla irukku sir kekradhukku adukku apparama you can say whatever you want to, and then you can say whatever you want to say. What is it? The senses and the mind by nature understands only that which is instant. The senses can understand only that which gives instant pleasure. So it will naturally court that which gives instant pleasure and avoid that which gives instant pain. Fasting gives instant pain. Therefore, senses says no. Indulgence, overeating, the senses like it, instant joy, the senses will say yes to it. The capacity to see the end in the beginning, seeing the invisible in the visible, formula enga irukudunna in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In 2 words he uses Amritam and Visham. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he uses these 2 words, Amritam and Visham. All this is derived from that 2 words, that Amrita and Visham. That which is beneficial to you is painful in the beginning. That which is detrimental to you is pleasurable in the beginning. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says this. And when Swamiji picks it up and elaborates, he brings in a very beautiful analysis to say, if good things were good in the beginning and bad things were bad in the beginning, we don't need any scripture, we don't need any teacher, we don't need any Vedanta. Everybody will know exactly what to do, what not to do. There is no need for any teacher. There is no need for any guidance. But we need a teacher. We need guidance. We need the Shastra. We need Vedanta. Why? Because what it appears is not what it is. The paradox of life. That is why you need an intellect. What it appears is not what it is. Okay, to put it in a very simple way, what you see is not what it is. If what you see is what it is, we don't need an intellect at all. We would know exactly what to do. But the paradox of life is what you see is not what it is. This what you see is not what it is what very beautifully Vedanta calls it as mithya. It's mithya. If what you see is what it is, there is no paradox there. There is no mithya there. It is clean and straight. Are you okay till now? It's clean and straight. But the difficulty is what you see is not what it is means it is covering. The original face, the real face is covered. Now you need an intellect to penetrate that and understand that. Once you can penetrate that and understand that, you would know how to make the right choice. You would know whether to choose it or not to choose it, to say yes to it or to say no to it. All that you will know exactly what to do. Now we are not able to do it because we don't have this penetrating capacity. We don't have this intellect. And the subject matter of the instrument that Vedanta is trying to develop, the instrument that Vedanta deals with is this intellect. Buddhi. In Sanskrit, it's called Buddhi. In the traditional orthodox Vedantic literature, Gayatri mantra is supposed to be the subtlest, the most powerful, extraordinarily meaningful also. And what is that Gayatri? This I have said any number of times. And you are supposed to say it morning, noon and night. You are supposed to say the Gayatri in the morning. You are supposed to say the Gayatri at the noon time. And you are supposed to say Gayatri at the evening time. Now, in that, what are you saying? What is the prayer there? Let my intellect be sharp and let our intellects be sharp and penetrative. Why it has to be that penetrative? Why it has to be that sharp? Because the life that you are leading, the life that you are living is subtle by nature. The beauty of life is the subtlety. And if you have to know the subtlety, you have to experience the subtlety, you need an intellect. Intelligence is of no use here. Intelligence is not of that much use here. Therefore, the function of the intellect is what? To practice this discipline. What is the discipline? Controlling the senses and controlling the mind. Now, for the intellect to be able to do that, it has to become strong and powerful. And how that intellect becomes strong and powerful? By study and reflection upon the truths laid down in Vedanta. Why only Vedanta? You can't say, why sir, why are you being so rigid? Why only Vedanta? You can't ask that question. Because why are you so rigid that only from medical college you can become a doctor? Why can't you study commerce and become a doctor? Why are you so rigid? Why can't you be liberal? Will you ask that question? If you are asking that, it means what? If you are asking that, it means you have not understood the very basics. Similarly, for the intellect, for the betterment of life, Vedanta is the subject. When we say this, we are not being We are not being fanatics because people think, oh, you are all very fanatic, sir. Why are you being so? It is not being fanatic. It is not being rigid. It is not all that. If you want to become a doctor, you have no choice. You have to go to, if you want to become a doctor, you have to go to medical college only. NEET exam எழுதிதான் ஆகணும். You can't say, why are you being so rigid? Why can't you be liberal? Who are you to decide that? I have the freedom to do what I want. All this you can talk. The end of this talk is life would be a disaster. Therefore, with conviction, you have to say, see, why I am saying this logic and reason is because otherwise you should not go back thinking that it is a fanatic attachment to knowledge. It's not a fanatic attachment to knowledge of Vedanta. It is not a fanatic attachment to that. Yeah. Vedanta is the only, but the clarification has come already. Yeah. That's why அதெல்லாம் நான் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணி வச்சிட்டேன். எல்லாம் முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் I will open it and read the clarification. Because I know as soon as I say this statement, what will come? Because we are all very liberal people. No, we all should be very liberal. We are not fanatics here. We are all supposed to be absolute. Lack of conviction. It's a very refined way of saying mudaha, lack of conviction. Yeah. What is the conviction? The conviction is this. Okay. Supposing after the class, I send a message to everybody. I have found a cure for COVID-19. I have the cure with me for COVID-19. Don't call me after the class. I don't have any cure because that is not my subject. How can I say that? How can I have a cure? Because that is not the subject. How can I have a cure for that? I would say உங்களுக்கு cure இருந்தா சொல்லுங்க, நானும் வாங்கி அதை போட்டுக்கிறேன், I will say. Why? Because the subject matter is that. Similarly, the only subject matter that would help in strengthening the intellect is Vedanta. You may agree, you may disagree. You may bring in any number of stories that you have heard. When you are in a half asleep state, when you are in the half drunken state, so many stories you would have heard, and you will bring all the stories also and ask me clarifications. I will answer all that also. But the conviction, the statement will not change. What is the statement? If intellect has to be strengthened, the only knowledge that is available for that is intellect. Why? Because it has been the very subject matter, so much of study and research and analysis and tarka, the nyaya, the mimamsa, all that is done not just by one person, not just by one or two persons, by thousands and thousands of years it has been done, and the conclusions have been the same. Therefore, Vedanta is the subject matter that would help you to strengthen the intellect. See, as I am saying this, I want to conclude this and then I'll take up the clarifications. See, I don't know on what basis you have understood that you have a mind. First of all, people liberally use the word mind. I don't know on what basis people think that they have a mind. If you know that you have a mind, obviously you will also know that you have a thing called intellect. But on what basis people say that there is the mind, and then they talk about beyond mind, and then they talk about beyond mind, and then they talk about thoughtlessness, and then they will talk about silence, and then I don't know what all words people have to use. The very subject matter of Vedanta, the intellectual strength, is gained only through study and reflection upon the truths of life laid down in Vedanta. So yeah, this is as far as the intellectual sheath is concerned. Now, there are some clarifications. I'm going to open those clarifications and see. Okay. Suresh, Bhishma also, correct. Yes, not only Bhishma, 4-5 பசங்க இருக்கிறாங்க அந்த மாதிரி. The very Mahabharata starts with Yayati's son, the 100th son who gave up his who gave up his life. There are very few like that, but popularly known as Rama and Ravana. Because Suresh is thinking I don't know all those stories, so he's trying to clear. He's correcting me there. I will add 5 more stories also to that. The context there is, Suresh, I know the intention. I know you are not meaning that. I'm just lightening it up. When ரொம்ப powerful assertive statements எல்லாம் கொஞ்சம் சொன்னேன்ல, கொஞ்சம் lighten up பண்ணனும் அதுக்கு அவ்வளவுதான். So you are correct. Bhishma also. The virtues of life cannot be proved. Very correct. Vijay Ramani, question. I don't know what is the question. I don't know what is the question there. Vijay. Okay, before I take up to the question, Sridhar. Sridhar? Yaar Sridhar? Okay. Incognito Sridhar. Yarnu therala enakku. Incognito Sridhar. Sir, but exceptions like Buddha also were enlightened, right? Buddha also. Now, Vedanta means practicing sense control and mind control. What was Buddha doing? What was Buddha doing?
Sridhar, you will have to unmute yourself.
What was Buddha doing? The way in which Buddha practiced sense control and mind control is practicing Vedanta. He may have a particular allergy to the word Vedanta. That is okay. Just as people have allergies to some things, to some food, similarly you can have allergies to some words also. And Buddha had this allergy to this word Veda. Though he was following everything from that, he had an allergy to that word Veda. So he will not use the word Veda at all. Now, whether he uses this word or not, we are not concerned. For we don't have a phonetic attachment to that word Veda or Vedanta. It is the knowledge, a systematic knowledge that is well thought of and designed to develop this is what is meant. Such as Lao Tzu, Mahavira, etc. All of them correct. See, all of them, now what Sridhar is asking is, he's going into the scholarly debate of the differences between Buddhism, Jainism, Mahavira, the Hinduism. I'm not getting into that discussion. But that is not the discussion here. The essence is right. Sridhar has got the essence that way. The essence is to go beyond the mind. A few, because of their purva karma and what all the preparation that they have done in the previous janmas and all that they were able to achieve it now. Now we are talking about the vast majority who need to prepare themselves. Therefore, preparation is Vedanta. And then you have the freedom to choose what you want to do. This is as far as answering Sridhar is concerned.
Hari Om, Guruji. Guruji பேச
sorry, yeah, Vijay சொல்லுங்க. Yes.
Intelligence பத்தி பேசியிருந்தேன் இல்லையா?
Yes.
அன்னைக்கு ஆத்மபோதா கிளாஸ்ல the ignorance is also by the self only. It is known by the self ன்னு சொன்னேன் இல்லையா?
Yes.
செல்ஃப்னால தான் எல்லாமே தெரியுது. நமக்கு இன்டெலிஜென்ட்டா இருக்கோமோ, ignorance இருக்கோமோ எல்லாமே because it is enlivening everything.
Correct.
அப்போ செல்ஃப்னாலே தானாவே தெரிஞ்சுக்க முடியாதா?
Self intellect is not going to teach you the self.
Okay.
Intellect is not going to teach you the self. Intellect is not going to tell you this is what Brahman is. We never said that.
Okay.
Intellect, திருப்பி அதான் சொல்லிட்டே இருக்கும். Intellect is not for self. Intellect is to manage the
mind,
senses and the mind. Always, whenever we talk about the intellect, we talk about the intellect in relation to the senses and the mind. Why are you bringing in the self here? For when you bring in Brahman, when you bring in self here, the whole discussion is of a different dynamics. In Atma Bodha, the context was knowledge is the cure for ignorance, is the context there. The context here is of the 5 koshas in the subtlety. The Brahmane kadayadu in the 5 koshala. Wherever we talk about these 5 koshas, did we ever talk about Brahman?
No.
Yeah. Therefore, here the very discussion itself is the 5 koshas. Of the 5 koshas, what is the which is the subtlest that we are able to, that we can deal with, as a result of which we can prepare ourselves to pursue the knowledge of Brahman. We need a preparation. Ipo yarume preparation illama everybody wants to go and study Brahma Vidya directly. Everybody wants to read Ramana Maharshi directly. Everybody wants to ask this question, who am I directly. You can ask who am I, and the answer also is you are the self, but nothing would
change.
Nothing would change. The question is correct, the answer is correct, but nothing would change. Why? Because there is no penetrating capacity to ask this question, nor is the penetrating capacity is there to receive the answer also. Are you able to follow? Here we are talking about to prepare ourselves to come to that.
Okay.
Seriya? It's a it is an instrument. Correct. It is an instrument for the senses and the mind. Intellect is not an instrument to know the self. We have never said that. We will never say that. If intellect is the instrument to know the self, self becomes all powerful, then the intellect will become all powerful. No. Even intellect is relative. It is also, it also doesn't have the power to know the self. It is not that you develop the intellect, you will know the self. That statement is not made at all. That equation is not made at all. Are you able to follow?
Okay.
Intellect nale senses and the mind da.
Okay.
Seriya?
Thank you.
Yeah. Venkatachalam. Do we need a level of intellect to understand its significance and pursue the study of Vedanta to strengthen it? Exactly correct. This is the biggest, the most paradoxical, the most frustrating paradox of life is only a person with intellect understands the importance of intellect. Again, it's a paradox. Like, for example, I ask you a simple question. The importance of education is understood by the educated, no? Have you ever observed it? The importance of education would be understood only by the educated. Now, logically speaking, the uneducated must understand the importance of education. But that's not how life is. That's not how life is. What is it? The educated, understanding the importance of education, blow their lungs out, somehow try to convince the uneducated by employing all possible methods to get them educated. Correct? Huh? Exactly that method is what Vedanta is taking towards us. It's a very good observation. Exactly correct it is. That's where in the discourses Swamiji says the difficulty is you need an intellect to understand the importance of intellect. Then we are in the vicious cycle situation. You need an intellect to understand the importance of intellect. But again, unless you have an intellect, you cannot understand the importance of intellect also. Now, where do we start? That is where one of the beautiful words that Vedanta gives. Some of the beautiful words of Vedanta is Shraddha. With Shraddha, I pursue this knowledge. I try to understand this knowledge with Shraddha. Eventually, I will end up understanding the importance of intellect. That is why any number of questions is allowed, any number of clarifications we take up. Sometimes whole session goes in answering the questions. I don't even go to the text. Whole session goes in answering the questions. Why? Because of this paradox. What is the paradox? The importance of education is understood by the parent who knows the importance of education, tries to tell the child where the child is not able to understand the importance of education. The child cannot understand it. But then the parent has to employ all possible methods to make the child understand. Similarly, the Vedanta takes that stance of the parent and use all possible methods to make us understand the importance of intellect. That is why the methodology that we adopt here is, one methodology is logic, reason, analysis. Another methodology is the psychology. Another methodology is the story. Another methodology is the case study. If you see in all my classes, I will be following all these four methodologies. Case study. We would take up somebody from the real life that we know and we try to understand it. We take up some story and then we talk about it as in the psychological angle, because nowadays everything has to be explained through, everything has to be explained in the language of psychology, though such a useless method it is to teach, because nobody knows what the mind is. How can you employ that method? But still I employ that also, because that's what is working. Now, the fourth method is logic, reason, analysis. By combining all these methods of teaching, Vedanta, it's not my method. It's not my method. Nothing of this is my original method. Whatever they have done in the Shastras, whatever the teacher does, I faithfully follow that, because I can say to some extent, not fully, to some extent, we being the beneficiary of that training, we know exactly this is how it works. Is it okay, sir? Yeah. Jeev, solda. Here, unna unmute pananunda. Unmute acha, terla.
Srikanth, okay.
Srikanth. So, yeah, Srikanth, correct. Srikanth. Solda.
நீங்க வந்து ஒரு ஸ்டடிட் நல்ல
Your voice is breaking a lot, da.
Soft pieces.
தான் நாலேஜோட இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ்
இல்லடா, your voice is
கேக்குதா?
Soft piece.
Break ஆகுது. சொல்டா.
A educated person knows the importance of education.
Yes.
ஆனா இப்ப வந்து வேர்ல்ட்ல இருக்கிற எல்லா பேரண்ட்ஸுமே ஹைலி எஜுகேட்டட் கிடையாது.
கரெக்ட்.
அவங்க சைல்ட ஸ்கூலுக்கு அனுப்பும்போது அவங்க வந்து அதுக்கு முன்னாடியே ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணி ரொம்ப பேசி தான் அனுப்புவாங்க, எஜுகேஷன் தான் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் அது இதுன்னு.
கரெக்ட்.
அப்ப அவங்களுக்குமே இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் தெரியும்ல அங்கிள்?
Yes, that's what I said. The parent, I was using that example to convey that the child doesn't understand. The child puriyave puriyadu the importance of education. Child can understand the importance of education only after getting educated. The parent who have already gone through those process, Either they have gone through the process or they have missed the process. Rendu possibility. Either they have gone through it or they didn't have an opportunity to go through that. But either way, they know the importance of it. Either way, they will know the importance of it, and they try to educate the child from the angle of the child kadu or level ku mele child kadu puriyave puriyadu. Why? Education is, the child cannot understand it, but the child has to go through it. The child cannot wait for it to understand the importance of education and then start educating. Supposing if the child waits, education oda importance புரிஞ்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் I will do. புரியாம நான் எதுவுமே செய்ய மாட்டேன். எனக்கு இதோட வேல்யூ புரிஞ்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் நான் பிராக்டிஸ் பண்ண ஆரம்பிப்பேன். If the child is sitting na எந்த வயசுல புரியும்? 60 வயசுல புரியும். 60 வயசுல புரிஞ்சு ஒரு பிரயோஜனமும் இல்லை. Why? Because nothing can be, you can't do anything after that. Are you able to follow? The paradox is that, in fact, எல்லாமே அப்படிதான். See, the importance of wealth is understood by a person who has earned wealth. You give money to a poor person, you give money to a child, they will not know how to conserve it and double it. They will immediately spend it and back to square one. So even the importance of wealth would be understood by whom? By poor, wealthy. The importance of hygiene is understood by one who is hygienic. It's I tell you, it's a law that applies to all the areas. So somewhere down the line, we have no choice but to have Shraddha in somebody and follow that. And over a period of time, understand. Now, what I was trying to explain is the very word Shraddha itself is seen as, the very word Shraddha itself is so misunderstood, though we are following it in all other areas, only when it comes to the development of intellect, and when we say have Shraddha in Vedanta and pursue that, we get very irritated, we get very frustrated. In all other areas, we are in full agreement, following the same principle, not knowing what we are following. Therefore, to explain that, the importance of intellect would be understood only by the intellect, and those who have this knowledge and understanding alone would be able to guide us, is what I was saying. Venkatachalam, you are perfectly correct. That's why it is initiated at an early age. That's why it is always initiated at an early age where there is a natural Shraddha. See, when you are young, Shraddha is very natural to you. Looking up to trustworthiness and all is natural. As you grow older and older, in fact, I won't say as you grow older and older, as you become more and more ignorant, that's what growing means. Yeah. Intelligence dhan grow aayindirukku, adallam growth illa. As you grow more and more in ignorance, Shraddha in the subtlety will become less and less. Knowing this methodology in the olden days, what they did, as you are taught a skill to earn your living, simultaneously this was also taught. It was a simultaneous, it was holistic education, that was a holistic education where earning a living was also taught, simultaneously this was also taught. 6 months in a year, a skill is taught. 6 months in a year, Vedanta was taught. That was the education system in the past. Again, I repeat, for 6 months in a year, skill is taught. 6 months in a year, Vedanta is taught. So when the child comes out, not only it has an intelligence and a skill, it had this knowledge also. It was not that in the ancient Gurukula, only Vedanta was taught 365 days and people didn't know anything else. It wasn't like that. Are you able to follow? Yeah. Srikanth. Unmute Srikanth. சொல்டா ஜி.
அன்மியூட் ஆயிடுச்சு.
சொல்டா.
நீங்க அந்த சீரீஸ் சொன்னீங்க, எஜுகேட்டட் பர்சனுக்கு தான் எஜுகேஷனோட இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் புரியும் அந்த மாதிரி. இப்ப வந்து ஒரு பர்சன் இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணும்போது அந்த இண்டல்ஜிங் புடிச்சிட்டு தான் திருப்பி திருப்பி இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ண போறாங்க. அப்படின்னா அந்த பண்ணாத பர்சனை விட இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ற பர்சனுக்கு தானே அந்த இது தெரியும்,
ஜாய் தெரியும்ன்றியா?
பிளஷர்.
அதான் பிளஷர் தெரியும். கரெக்ட். இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணாதான் சார் பிளஷர் தெரியும். கரெக்ட். இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணாதான் பிளஷர் தெரியும். இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறமா அதனுடைய கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் என்னன்னு தெரியும். ஒன்னு இண்டல்ஜென்ஸ், இன்னொன்னு இண்டல்ஜென்ஸுக்குன்னு இருக்கிற கான்சிக்வன்ஸ். இன்டெலெக்ட் என்ன சொல்றது? இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணு, இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணினா இன்ஸ்டன்டா ஒரு ஹாப்பினஸ் கிடைக்கும். ஆனா அதுக்குன்னு ஒரு கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் இருக்குது. அண்ட் யூ கான்ட் எஸ்கேப் தட். உனக்கு அந்த கான்சிக்வன்ஸ்ல இருந்து ஃப்ரீடம் கிடையாது. யூ ஹாவ் டு சஃபர் த கான்சிக்வன்ஸ். சோ இண்டல்ஜென்ஸுடைய கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் என்ன? இண்டல்ஜென்ஸுடைய கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் வலி. அப்படின்றது புரிஞ்சுட்டு இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணினா இட் இஸ் பெர்ஃபெக்ட்லி ஆல்ரைட். புரியுதா? இண்டல்ஜென்ஸுடைய கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் வலின்னு புரியாம இருக்கிறதுனாலதான் இண்டல்ஜென்ஸே நடக்கிறது. சரியா? தமிழ்ல சொல்றது ஈஸியா இருக்கும் போல் இருக்கு, இங்கிலீஷ்ல சொல்லி ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்படுறேன் இல்லையா? தனியா உனக்கு தமிழ்லயே சொல்றேன்டா, ஈஸியா தான். இந்த ஏன்னா இங்கெல்லாம் ஒரே எஜுகேட்டட் பீப்புள் இங்கிலீஷ்லயே தான் பேசணும் இவங்கள்ட்ட எல்லாம் இல்லையா? தமிழ்ல பேசினா யாருக்குமே புரியாது, எனக்கே புரியாது முதல்ல. சோ இன்டெலிஜென்ஸுக்குன்னு இருக்கிற ஒரு கான்சிக்வன்ஸ், இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ்க்குன்னு இருக்கிற கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் என்ன? அதுதான் the capacity to see the end in the beginning. இன்டெலிஜென்ஸுக்குன்னு இருக்கிற கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் என்ன? வலிதான் இதனுடைய கான்சிக்வன்ஸ். தோ இமீடியட்டா டெம்பரரியா ஒரு சந்தோஷம், ஒரு சுகம், ஒரு ஜாலி கொடுக்குற மாதிரி இருந்தா கூட கடைசியில அதுல எதுல வந்து நிக்க போகுது? வலியில தான் நிக்க போறதுன்ற அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் வந்துருதுன்னா இன்டெலெக்ட் இஸ் ஃபங்க்ஷனிங். Are you able to follow? Now, all indulgence leads to pain is what Vedanta can teach. No other subject teaches you this. Indulgences leads to pain is what the subject matter of Vedanta is. Are you able to follow? Therefore, it says practice discipline from the beginning. Therefore, it says practice discipline from the beginning. சரியா?
ஒரு கிளாரிஃபிகேஷன்
சொல்லு.
இண்டல்ஜ் பண்றாங்க, கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் வருது, அப்புறம் அத வந்து ஃபேஸ் பண்ணோனே இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு தெரியுது.
ஆமா,
அதனால வந்து இண்டல்ஜ் பண்றவங்களுக்கு தானே இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணக்கூடாது அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு நாலேஜ் வரும்.
இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணி புரிஞ்சின்றவங்களுக்கு நாலேஜ் வருது. சரியா? இதுல இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணி வியாதி வரதுக்கு பதிலா இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணவங்களை பார்த்து புரிஞ்சுக்கிறது புத்தார்த்தனம் தானே? நான் காசு இல்லாம கஷ்டப்பட்டு அழுது சஃபர் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் அதனுடைய வலி அனுபவிச்சுட்டு தான் நான் காசு சம்பாதிக்கணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லையா? அது இல்லாத மிச்சவங்க படுற கஷ்டத்தை பார்த்து அது இல்லைன்னா எனக்கும் அதே கான்சிக்வன்ஸ் தான், நான் ஜாக்கிரதையா இருக்கணும்னு முன்னாடியே புரிஞ்சுக்கலாம்ல. அதுதான் புத்தி, அதுதான் இன்டெலெக்ட். இண்டல்ஜ் பண்ணி புரிஞ்சுக்குவாங்க. என்ன ஆகும்? அதனால அவங்களுக்குள்ள ஒரு வெறுப்பு இருக்கும். யாராவது சந்தோஷமா இருந்தா பிடிக்காது அவங்களுக்கு. ஒரு வெறுப்பு இருக்கும், ஒரு இரிட்டேஷன் இருக்கும், ஒரு நெகட்டிவிட்டி இருக்கும் அதுக்குள்ள. நாலேஜ் மூலியமா வர அந்த ஒரு ஃப்ரீடம் இருக்காது. நாலேஜ் மூலியமா வர அந்த லிபரல் மைண்ட் செட் இருக்காது. சரியா? இல்லன்னா நீ சொல்றது கரெக்ட். அவங்க அனுபவிச்சே தெரிஞ்சுக்கலாம், அவங்க அனுபவிச்சே புரிஞ்சுக்கலாம். ஆனாலும் அனுபவத்தால பாடம் கத்துக்கிறதுக்கு கூட ஒரு புத்தி வேணும். அகைன் ரிப்பீட், அனுபவத்தால பாடம் கத்துக்கிறதுக்கு கூட ஒரு புத்தி இருந்தாதான் அனுபவத்தால பாடம் கத்துக்க முடியும். இப்ப அனுபவத்தாலே பாடம் கத்துக்க முடியும்னா ஜீவேஷ் உன்னை சுத்தி எல்லாரும் கௌதம் புத்தாவா தான் இருக்கணும். ஏன்னா எல்லாரும் உன்னை சுத்தி இன்டெலிஜென்ட், ஏன்னா எல்லாருக்கும் அவ்வளவு அனுபவம் இருக்கு, எல்லாருக்கும் அவ்வளவு எக்ஸ்பீரியன்சஸ் இருக்கு. பட் ஸ்டில் nobody has changed. So through experience and all you cannot learn. To say that through experience you can learn is a very misleading logic, because if experience can teach, we all should be wise already, or not you, at least the elders around you. இல்லையா? பக்கத்துல ஒருத்தர் உட்கார்ந்து இருக்கிறாருல்ல, இன்சைட் யார் இருக்கிறாங்க? பக்கத்துல ஒரு இருக்கிறாருல்ல, அப்பா உட்கார்ந்து இருக்கிறாரு பக்கத்துலயே. அப்பா வச்சுனே அவன் இவ்வளவு கேள்வி கேட்கறான். அப்பாவே உட்கார்ந்து இருக்கிறாரு பக்கத்துல. இப்ப அவர் ஸ்ரீகாந்த் இஸ் திங்கிங் வெதர் டு யாராவது ஒருத்தர் தான் கிளாஸுக்கு வரணும், இனிமே ரெண்டு பேரும் சேர்ந்து உட்கார கூடாது கிளாஸ்ல. ஆர் ஏபிள் டு ஃபாலோ ஜி? புரிஞ்சுதா? பாத்தீங்க, இந்த எக்ஸாம்பிள் கொடுத்தோடனே கரெக்டா புரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டான். With this we conclude for today and we continue next week.